Welcome to Day Walker. I hope you're having an amazing week up to this point. Kicking it off, man, going straight into it with no avail, no pomp and circumstance, just jumping straight into it. Nothing amazing to say. Don't mind my fit. I just got back from aura farming, and that's manual labor. That's heavy work. So you got to get your protein in. You got to do all of that. But seriously, man, I told you last time I was going to jump into Professor X, Magneto, and this new iteration of Cyclops, what Cyclops has become. I felt, and I always have felt like Professor X and Magneto, by the way, happy Black History Month, because it kicks into what I'm talking about. So Magneto and Professor X were Professor X were a microcosm of the times that they were written. Stan Lee wrote these characters, and Jack Kirby illustrated these characters. As you know them, the X-Men, that whole universe. I've always felt like it was a gigantic metaphor for the times in the 60s. You know how turbulent the 60s were. If you have grandparents, great-grandparents that have ever told you what life was like, maybe your parents were born back then like mine were, and they have told me some things, and there was really no representation in the comics of people that look like us. Now you might be like, Ox, like, what do you mean? Like, how does, a Blue Beast or Nightcrawler or Gambit or whatever represent us? Well, to me, mutant kind, black people were being treated like mutants as they were treated in the comics. It was almost a direct correlation between the two, of how just because of the fact that you were different meant that you were bad. And the establishment, i.e. the company that created the Sentinels to hunt mutants, Sentinels, i.e. Triple K, were hunting mutants. And the leader of said mutants was Professor X, whom many people have likened to be like Martin Luther King. So if he's Martin Luther King, then who is Malcolm X? And that would be Magneto. So to me, Stan did an amazing job getting it across without it being too blatant and in your face. Think about, he knew a lot of people wouldn't buy these comic books if it was overtly just a group of black people. You can't call them mutants, right? There's nothing about us that's mutant-like, unless you mean the melanin that's in our skin, unless you mean the fact that our bodies do different things a little bit, that we're at the high upper echelon of being athletes, scholars, many, many things, orators, electricians, the list goes on and on. I.e., this is Black History Month. You need to do some research on your own about the amazing things that we have accomplished since we have obtained freedom in this country. Mind you, a lot of these things were done under the guise of, you can come work for me, and you invent it. I'm going to slap it away from you. I'm going to snap it away from you, take it away from you and slap my name on it. Some of the things in your day-to-day life have been created by black creators, black inventors. And it's important to me that this month sustain. So I decided to do this today because, to be honest with you, it's fascinating to me. I mean, I've read things of people refuting that that's what Stan Lee created them for. I have no problem with going with that is why he created it. You have Professor X. I have some quotes from him. And one of his most famous quote is, "Mankind is not evil, just uninformed. It's not their pain you're afraid of, it's yours. And as frightening as it can be, that pain will make you stronger. Just because someone stumbles and loses their path doesn't mean they're lost forever. Sometimes we all need a little help." The reason why you can kind of put that in the Martin Luther King category, because as a lot of people have alluded to that didn't know the last 2 years of MLK's life, that he was for peace and a unification, segregation of blacks and whites. Charles wants, excuse me, I said segregation, unsegregated of black and white. Charles wanted it to be non-segregated with mutants and people. We can live in harmony together. We can live in unison together. I can help you. You can help me. That's what he wanted. He took on a school, or created a school for special people. I'm gonna say black folks, a university, and honed their skills. You can liken that to honing something headed to the job force, right? Almost honing some skills heading into life. He honed those things. He had a litany of different mutants with different abilities. That's an amazing skill in itself, to find out what your talent is. That's like, that's a parallel to life. Find out what your talent is and grow it, accentuate it, get it to its maximum capability. And on the other end of that, you had my brother Magneto. Magneto was always right. His delivery was brash, but it was needed to be brash for the time. The reason why I liken him to Malcolm X is because of some of his earlier statements. Malcolm X's earlier statements, when he started becoming the face of the NOI, he was saying some stuff and it was scaring the hell out of people. But why were they scared? They were frightened because you didn't want us to know how powerful we were. You didn't want black people to know how powerful we were. Magneto wants the mutants to know how powerful you are. If we unite, there ain't nothing they can do to us. There's nothing they can do to us. One of the quotes that I like that he says is, "They fear what they don't understand. Mutants are the next step in human evolution. I have been at the mercy of men just following orders. Never again. They will fear us because we are different." He did have a belief of superiority. Me as a black man, I don't believe I'm superior to anybody or anything. That's just Ox, the guy talking to you now. The way the character's written and the way that the NOI was moving back then, it was a superiority. We are kings and queens. We are so on and so forth, and it's the ideological clash with Professor X, who really advocated a peaceful coexistence with humans, was needed for balance, because you could have this guy that, honestly, Magneto, his power set, his skill set, super powerful, come through, clear everything if he wanted to. He can control the metallic ions in your bloodstream. And that's on the low end. Like, he's been upscaled so high now, he's Omega level mutant. So he could technically just kill humans. So they made it a thing to me where you had total balance between him and Professor X. You had times when Professor X was too passive and it got a lot of his mutants killed. There's a lot of stories have been written about, the university being taken over, the university being destroyed, so on and so forth. If Magneto was running it, it wouldn't happen like that, because he's attacked first. I'm not gonna wait until you run up on me. I'm running up on you and I'm clapping everything. That's putting it in today's terms. That's exactly what time he was on. Professor X was like, "Oh, if they need me, I'll help." The X-Men were used almost as a not a wet works team. I wouldn't say that. That was more so X-Force, but they were used by certain branches to go, get this terrorist and and all this other. But the true terrorism were the ones that created the Sentinels. Those were the ones they were true terrorists in every sense of the word, because they had this ideology and enacted it exactly on mutants, just like Triple K, just like Proud Boys, just like whatever, and want to enact that on minorities, the black community. And so that's where the parallels fall in. I'll say, to me, Magneto wanted to get everybody together, but on his side of the fence, and say, no, we need to be segregated. We need to move by ourselves, leave us the hell alone. And there's many in the black community over the years that have felt that exact same way. We want to be over here. We want the same rights as everyone else, but leave us the hell alone. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now you have Cyclops, who I thought was just a straight bitch. I'm not gonna lie to you. I thought Cyclops was he over the years has come around to that Magneto way of thinking. He has always been the leader of the X-Men, but now he is looking out for his kind first. I'm gonna give you a quote between him and it's Avengers versus X-Men #6 by Jonathan Hickman. And he says, men know that regardless of their endless sins against mutants, their heroes will protect them. Meaning, and before I go on, hold on, there's more to it. Every time he's talking to Emma Frost, she says, Scott, every time we get pushed further into a corner, they'll never stop coming. We have been feared and hunted. We have become endangered. We are so very few, and still they keep coming for us. Now, even at our most powerful, when we do favor of remaking the earth into a more livable place, even then mankind feels bold enough to send their heroes here to steal our innocent and take away our tomorrow. This is when he found out that Captain America had been killed. So that's beyond heavy. That's so heavy. That's so real. That's how we feel as black people, do we not? We feel like every time we get pushed further into a corner, they never stop coming for us. These running up into churches, killing black people, the police brutality, the taking away of certain programs that were instilled by the Black Panthers, and so on and so forth, ad nauseum. He says, we have feared and hunted. We have been feared and hunted. We have become endangered. Man, I mean, we're almost the minority, right? We've always been the minority, but I mean the minority amongst minorities. Jailed, we kill ourselves ad nauseum. We are so very few, yet they still come for us. So even at our strongest, he says, even at our most powerful, even when we do the favor of remaking the earth, meaning black people, we built this nation. You can hem and haw all you want and be like, that's not the... No. 100%. Yes, there were other minority groups that did help, but we are the architects of this nation that you and I live in. Says, we do the favor of remaking the earth into a more livable place. Even then, mankind feels bold enough. They've always felt bold enough in today's climate. And we know what happened with this past election. We know what happened with the things that are taking place that mean nothing to anybody but the billionaires. It means nothing to nobody. It's not helping your pocket, my pocket. No. Scott was on this type of time. Scott was on this type of time. He changed to be this type on this type of time. He also says in Uncanny X-Men in 2013, number 3, I see a man, an uninformed man, with his hands around the throat of a new mutant just coming into bloom. Meaning he had broke. He saw he said an uninformed man, meaning this man didn't understand what he was doing when he was pressing himself upon this young mutant that hadn't even fully come into bloom yet, knowing who he was, knowing who that mutant was. I mean, can we see parallels within the last 15, 20, 30 years? Somebody's knee on somebody's neck, uninformed. Are they not? All these, I'm not trying to make this super heavy, but I have to be honest with you. Art imitates life, and a lot of this stuff is projected to us through these comics. So when you're reading your stories, don't just take it face value like, oh, that's a cute story. Oh, no, this is a parallel to life. He, in his new run now, the government is after him. They basically tell you, turn yourself in. And he's like, for what? Just let me be. Let me be with my people. Let me be with my people. The way I feel like he is a combination of the two I feel like Scott Summers kind of now is a combination of Professor X and Magneto into one. He goes, we will save those who need saving at whatever the cost. This is X-Men 2019, number 15. How is that not what we need now? We need to save those who need saving at whatever the cost. We've let the cost bankrupt us. We've let the cost do us in far too long. So, I know today was kind of heavy. But his call to arms is no different than how I feel. No different than you as a black man, a black woman, a minority, how you should feel. You really need to, think about how you move in your community and who is actually behind you, who you can pull up with you. If you get a promotion at your job and you're able to bring other people along with you, do that. Bring them with you. If they look like us, even better. Teach them. My girlfriend is a mentor to a student in college, and she's flaking heavily. And it makes me think, and she's black like us, and it gives a little bit of credence to why they think the way they do, that we're lazy and we're looking for. Find something within you, dig it, pull it out, teach someone else, pull them up with you. Anyway, that's it for today. Realize that whatever people make of you, you are not what they say. You are what you are through the Most High. The Most High determines who you are and what you are, not what the world says. So I don't care if you're dark, light, none of that matters to me. None of that matters to me. Representation matters to me. Hence why when I was a kid and I became a nerd, I was on my nerd time, I gravitated towards certain stories. And I always understood what this meant, what the X-Men meant. I always understood what Blade meant. Spawn, and so on and so forth. There's so many more out there that we'll get into in the future, but I just had to get this out. I know I could have been a little bit more in depth, but I want you, the viewer, to go out and look up some of these comics. Look up the transformation of Scott Summers, how he's turned into this version of Cyclops, from the goody-goody two-shoes guy that Wolverine was hating to this version of the leader that he is now. How he got some of his beliefs from Professor X and gleaned some of his beliefs from Magneto. Those two characters mean a lot to the history of comic books. And I'm a Marvel guy. I don't know what the equivalent of that would be in DC terms. I just know what it means now. So go on, have an amazing, amazing week. And don't forget, some motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill.